Hello, my lovely law enthusiast humans. Welcome back to my channel, MFCA. I am doing summary updates on my channel for the Karen Read trial. I watched the Karen Read trial, and as a non-legal professional, for transparency's sake, and I often say that just because I have never had a profession doesn't mean that I'm totally ignorant. You don't have to own a bakery to know how to bake stuff, and I am a law aficionado. I'm not pretending that I have any kind of professional schooling or expertise. I am an outside juror watching the trial and then giving those facts and updates, and I will make hand gestures and very much clarify when I am giving a speculation and opinion versus what happened in trial. They get combined here. I'm a chatterbox, and to try and I'm a day behind with the trials just because I work second shift and I don't always get a chance to watch/listen to the trial during my work hours, so it does put me behind and when I can and can't listen to things, especially during the middle of the week. I have 2 jobs, and my part-time job takes place before my first job when I do fitness instructor things Tuesday through Thursday, and when May begins, that's going to go Monday through Thursday. I added another class. So that just is my life working with my YouTube schedule. Just wanted to make sure to put that out there. Let's get into day 6 of the Karen Read trial. We are 11 witnesses in, and that is minus the arco of voir dire. They are going to come in later, but we are going to go in through day 6, and I'm going to split day 6 into 2 parts. So this is day 6 part 1, and then I'm going to be able to dedicate another video just so I can keep up a little bit better and have these be a little bit shorter. So what we had with day 6 was we went into a little recap with our witness, Mr. Whiffen. Mr. Whiffen is a forensic analyst who works for Celebrate, a cell phone data and general data extraction company. And this was the company that was used and the system that was used to extract the information from the phones in the Karen Read case. And he is a specific analyst who interprets the data and not just removes them. Now, he started out as like fully credible. He was easy to follow. Lots of testing was happening. And we went into the rest of cross-examination today. And for the most part, it was pretty straightforward. And I will say this, this is my opinion right here, that he was a really good expert witness. He didn't get defensive. He only had a couple times where he wanted to try to explain and he was cut off. And that just happens in cross-examination because the whole point of cross-examination is to raise doubt and poke holes in whatever the prosecution has established. And so what that often leads to is the defense, the cross-examiner, it could be the prosecution, the cross-examiner asking questions that don't allow for context. It's just a straight up, did you lie? And you're like, and sometimes there's context to that. So if you were planning a surprise birthday party, this is an example, you were planning a surprise birthday party for a friend, and you said, oh no, I can't hang out with you, I'm busy, we'll catch up another time for your birthday, blah blah blah. It's like, oh, so is somebody who lies a liar? Yes. And you lied. Well, I mean, did you lie? Was that the truth? No. Okay, so it's a lie. Yes. That's how cross-examination tends to go. And it becomes really frustrating when it's like, okay, yeah, I told a white lie, but there's context, and you don't get to give that context in cross-examination. They will cut you off, they being the cross-examiner. That is what redirect is for. Redirect gets to fix and gives the witness a chance to add testimony, but in the moment, that's very frustrating and hard to do. So he was poking holes in the stuff, he being Alessi, he is our tech defense person, and he was going after what Brennan had laid down the foundation for. And we went into the location data that was explained, because in the other testimony, Mr. Whiffen had explained that, yeah, based on the ambient temperature data and the location data of the phone, it kind of just stayed outside. There wasn't any notice of him going in or out. I told you all that yesterday. But today the location data was explained further about how when he was asked, and this is not Mr. Whiffen's fault, this is not the witness's fault, they answer what they are asked and they don't expand on it. And he was asked about location, and he gave very narrow locations, but there was an expanded location of possibilities where the phone could have been that included being in the Albert house. And he was very good. He was one of the better witnesses that we've had in any trial, of just saying, yeah, when he messed up or whatever, he just agreed with it, like, yeah, that happened. Yes, that's what I wrote. Yeah, that's what I said. No, I don't know. And it causes, and while that looks good on one hand, it can also make you look really bad. Because we had a situation, I'm looking down at my notes that I was taking while I was listening to the trial. He was asked if he had seen any information, such as a PowerPoint presentation from Trooper Nick Guarino, who was the person who did the extraction for the Massachusetts and Boston Police Department. And Mr. Whiffen had said, well, we don't really have a relationship, but he did kept calling him Nick, and that's a very familiar term. Some people are just better with first names than last names, but it does give an impression to the jury, which is what Alessi was going for. And it was like, yeah, I seen the presentation, but that used my work. I didn't use their work, so that didn't affect my opinion. And it was just showing that there was communication happening between people that wasn't earlier revealed, and that can just make things look a little shady, even if they're not. And then they were talking about the pocket mode when it was activated, deactivated, and activated again. And then it was also put out that there were 36 steps taken in that 21-second time period, which was about 84 meters, which was, which was given in meters, but was 84 feet. Because Mr. Whiffen is Canadian, is from Canada, and they use the metric system because they're smart. And there was data testing done about where the distance was from the flagpole to the Albert's front door, which is 72 feet. There was showing from the curb, which is close to the flagpole, to the front door of the Albert's house. His phone showed going westward towards the house from the street. And now it's revealed that those steps taken were 84 feet. From the flagpole to the front door is 72. So guess where that puts Mr. O'Keefe's body? Yeah, in the house. And that's very important to point out, because Brennan's testimony from this witness elicited that, yeah, no, he stayed outside. There's no indication that he went in the house. And then he was talking about his testing. Now, Alessi went in on him for the testing. There were a couple times where I thought Alessi was going too hard on this really kind of genteel witness. There are some witnesses that even if they're wrong, you don't want to go hardball on them just because it can look weird to the jury, and you don't want whatever is being said to be overridden by them not liking the way the lawyer's talking to a particular witness. If jurors like a witness, they're not going to like, and no matter what, right, wrong, or anything else, it's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth if they think that the lawyer is going in incorrectly. Tone matters. Because he was doing data testing, and the data testing that was happening was for the ambient temperature, it was something that this is a Commonwealth witness. He was asked by the Commonwealth, by Mr. Brennan, to do testing about ambient battery temperature on the phone, which is not this man's expertise. But he did some testing to satisfy that anyway. The testing that he did was he was putting the phones into a freezer, but he didn't have the initial temperature of the freezer. What was the temperature of the freezer when you started the experiment? And he said, I don't know. I didn't check. I just knew it was cold. And then it was revealed through the testing versus where the iPhone was outside that there was a significant difference, almost double the drop, bringing the iPhone from inside of the freezer and taking it out versus the way it dropped when it was actually outside in adverse weather conditions. That was a double the drop of 11 degrees because it was dropping 22 degrees when it was in the freezer per minute. It was only dropping 11 degrees when it was outside. So that leads to some bad testing results. How do you know where the freezer was versus what the phone was if you don't know what the temperature of the freezer was? Then it also just made the witness not look good when it was it freezing? Okay, what's freezing in Fahrenheit? And he said, I don't know, because he uses Celsius. And unless he did acknowledge that, he's like, I understand that you use that in Canada, you guys use the metric system and not Fahrenheit. And he did acknowledge that, which is respectful, but it does just make him look bad, and it makes his testing look bad. It's like, oh, wait a minute. You didn't test the freezer temperature, and then you didn't reveal the additional location data. You admitted that location timing, the math didn't math. Like, you said that it had to be outside, but when you do the math for the distance, it puts him inside. And he also mentioned that the location data could have become inaccurate if you go into a covered structure, like a garage, a basement, or a house. Okay. And that had not been brought up during the first testimony. Of course, why would it? That wouldn't help the prosecution. It was also revealed during cross-examination that while this man was doing ambient weather testing, Mr. Whiffen did not know what the temperature was in Canton, Massachusetts, the night of the incident. If we're talking about adverse weather conditions, being able to give this data on the phone and why the phone is so accurate and the phone's telling on you, but you don't know what that initial temperature was to run your tests against, or to maybe set your freezer at that temperature? He also said that other things, he being Mr. Whiffen, expressed that other things that could change the way the ambient temperature was taken in, location data, accuracy, etc., is if the phone was actually in a pocket. Pocket mode is just when the camera is covered, not necessarily if it's in a pocket. Is if it's in a pocket going through layers of clothing, or if the phone had a case around it. And he did not know the condition, placement, or how the phone was found to begin with. He just took the data out, examined what it was, and was explaining it. And then we get into Jen McCabe's phone, because it turns out that it's not as straightforward as it was previously presented. Mr. Whiffen really put a lot of emphasis on this tab stayed open, and here we are, and it did that. But that was shown to not be 100% true, because it had been mentioned that because he was not the one who did the Celebrate extraction, that there could have been tampering because of the hash value. The hash value was unsigned, and he did clarify that is a natural state of hash values to be, but he had no way of authenticating that was the original state of the hash value of the search and of the times, because he was not the one who took it, and nobody made any note of it when the phone was extracted. And so he can't authenticate something that he didn't do. And he said that, and then it was admitted that the timestamp from Celebrate had been removed. They removed the timestamp initially when they did the extraction. And it was like, when did that happen? We can't tell. We just know that it happened. The data shows that that number had been removed. But Axiom, the competitor to Celebrate, who the defense has as witnesses indicated to be coming up later, that they were a reputable extraction company and that they had not removed the timestamps and that it showed something different. And they were like, yeah, when the timestamps are removed, we don't know what the timestamp actually says except for the initial opening of the search. But once it's removed, they can't do anything about it. And he could not authenticate the hash value in association with that. So it poked a lot of holes, which is what they are supposed to do. And like I said, he was a good witness every time something was wrong. Instead of getting angry or defensive, which some experts do, they defend their work. He was just like, yeah, that happened. No, I didn't test for that. That's not my expertise. I was just trying to get more information. I was not asked that. So overall, it was a very good day for that. And the next part of the trials where it gets really exciting. Again, Mr. Whiffen was a wonderful, I don't doubt his work. He just did what he was asked by the Commonwealth, and he didn't back away from the bad answers. But we have some exciting stuff coming up because one of the witnesses I have been looking forward to the most is coming up on the second part of Trial Day 6. The incredible, whether you take that as a good thing or not is up to you, Jennifer McCabe. I'll see you in that next update. Bye, my lovely humans. Tell me what you think of the trial so far. I think that it has been streamlined. I think it has been much more clear, especially from the Commonwealth's perspective. And I think that there's room for doubt, but it's a lot harder to get to than the first trial. All right. Bye now.